What's up YouTube, Evan from Epic Duel Time here. I'm doing a video for you guys to kind of discuss and analyze the current Forbidden Limited list for March 1st. It was announced on the on Shriek. It is not 100% official yet, but we have it on very good faith that this is going to be the list. It's beyond reasonable doubt at this point. I'd be very, very surprised to find out that this wasn't the list for some reason. Although Konami hasn't announced it, and I'm not one to jump on a bandwagon before I have 100% proof. At the same time, we do have some pretty reliable evidence on this one. Link in the description below if you want to check it out yourself, or if you've been living under a rock the past couple days. But we have it on really good faith. This is probably the list. So I want to go over it, but mostly I want to go over why things got hit and the significance of hitting them and what that does mean for the future. So this isn't really so much a news thing as much as it's more of an analysis. It's going to be a bit of a longer video. I've tried recording this like 3 times at this point, and it's always run on really, really long, so I'm trying to shorten it up as best I can. Alright, I'm going to jump right into it. Forbidden cards. First one is Sangan, and then the next one's Wind Up Carriers and Matey. Sangan, in short, is probably a bit overdue. It's a hit that was surprising to some people, but to me, I see it as an opportunity for Konami to kind of hurt the effectiveness of every deck that utilizes it. People were really hoping that Rabbit would get hit. Well, this is a Rabbit Searcher. People forget that this card gets you Rabbit. If you have Tour Guide and you play Tour Guide and you get Sangan, you set the Torrential and you wait for the Thunder King or the big beat stick, or you wait for them to go off and summon 2-3 monsters, you're gonna plus pretty hard. If you can wipe the board and then search and then get set up your plays really well for next turn. That card searched Rabbit. It searches some of your nastiest combos. It searches Magician and it searches Shark. It searches all sorts of things. So it was a way to hit windups. It was a way to hit any deck that really utilized it. It hits, if you want to abuse it with Call the Haunted. I activate MST, hit your back row, chain, Call the Haunted, get Sangan. Now I can search out Max C, Veiler, Rabbit, whatever I want. That's a way to hit that and slow it down. Slow down the ability. Reduce the effectiveness of that. Now you have to think twice when you're building your deck of like, shit, do I have enough searchers? Do I have something, to get this? Is this really what I want to be using? If I'm going to have to draw this, I can't search it with Sangan. Things like that. Next, Wind Up Carriers and Matey. This goes against my assumed pattern of that Konami was not hitting cards that were because of their archetype. So, this was my logic as to why I thought they would never ban Gateway. Because if you take Gateway and you put it in anything but 6 Samurai, it's terrible. But if you put it in 6 Samurai, it's broken. So, they haven't banned archetype-based cards because of their archetype. So, people, their counter argument to me is, oh, well, what about Brionic and Trish? They're both Ice Barrier Dragons. Well, they weren't banned because they were Ice Barrier Dragons. They were banned because they were broken. So, in fact, we weren't playing them in Ice Barriers because that wasn't a meta thing. That wasn't the reason why they got hit. They got hit because they were the way they were. So, that's kind of how we look at it. But Zenmaity is kind of the first one that was, if you play it outside of windups, it's not good. So, this was the first one to do something like that. And it's very interesting. I'm glad to see it. It does nail the Shock Lock. It also nails being able to have these unnecessary abilities. It reduces Wind Up Rat's effectiveness. Huge. It's huge. So it's a real jab at windups again. I guess the biggest jab at windups, if we're going to go to the limited list, is on limited, we have Wind Up Magician. This was overdue. A lot of people are saying, well, what about, putting Shark to 1? And I said, well, Magician would need to get hit. Magician is how you set up some of your biggest plays. And if you now have Wind Up Magician and Shark in hand, you can get a Shockmaster, but you're not going to get a Shock Block. You're not going to be able to get the Carrier, and you're not going to be able to get the Papal Operative. You're just getting a Shockmaster. It's just going to end up being Magician, Shark, Shockmaster, and he's going to be very alone. If they find a way to get over him, Megalo gets over him, Priestess gets over him. So if you're protecting yourself from monsters, you're gonna have to fight spells too, and it's nasty. So at the same time, I think it's interesting that it leaves Shockmaster all on his own, and it changes the wind-up deck heavily. I'm not sure we're going to be seeing it topping as frequently. I think it's still not a terrible deck. I just think it's been tamed down to the point where it's time to move on, and time to stop being the center of attention all the time. Also on Limited, 1 Day of Peace. A lot of people have been worried about Gishki FTK, that deck that basically mills your opponent's whole deck by essentially dropping every card out of their deck and then looping 3 1 day apiece. And because you can keep looping them, your opponent's going to deck out, but you're going to have the 3 cards left in your deck because you can put them back with Evgishki Mind August. People were saying if Mind August goes to 1, it nails the whole deck. The problem is that they've already hit an Evgishki. They hit Goose Kraken, and they hit it without cause, really, because that card was not that broken. It doesn't hit. You look at 2 cards and you put 1 back. Well, the problem is that to do a hand loop with it, it took 4 cards out of your hand to do it, so it wasn't particularly viable. But they stood by it and they said it was broken. And he was pretty busty, sure. But at the same time, I think hitting the deck would have been a little too much. And I also think that 1 Day of Peace is really, really stupid. I've hated that card the longest time. It's an insane card that essentially gives win condition decks like Final Countdown, Chainburn more ground to stand on, and I'm not a huge fan of those types of decks. So I personally don't mind this, but there are reasons why they're hitting it. It's become a little too mainstream, and it's also, not particularly balanced. Also, Solemn Warning went to 1. And I find this fascinating. For people who know me, a little bit better, or know what I believe in this game, I'm a huge fan of interaction. I don't like the reason I don't like Shock Lock is because essentially if my opponent has no response to me doing it, I'm going to get away with it. And I don't have to think about it because I'm going to do the same thing. Wind Up Shark and Magician. If you have no responses to me, this play is happening. Period. But I'm a huge fan of interactions, players going back and forth in a display of skill and ability. I'm a huge fan of that. I believe in that. I strongly believe in that. I think it's worth fighting for, and I think it's worth talking about. That when you have a really good game, it's because it went back and forth, and you won by a margin, but you felt like, damn, I exerted some real thought in that game. Those are the best games. My favorite games are not when I steamrolled somebody. I felt bad after those games. And my favorite games are not getting steamrolled. My favorite game is a back and forth right to the very end. And that's because of interactions. It's not because we both OTK'd each other at the same time. That doesn't happen. It's because we both went back and forth, giving no ground, and we fought it out. We slowly chipped away at each other, and now we're at this point where we're basing our game in skill because we're both playing the best we can. I feel that Solemn Warning really adds something to that. And at 2, it was nice, because we were only really using it at 2, even when it was at 3, so it was fine when it went to 2. But I feel like it became kind of like the bottomless trap hole we always wanted to run, because it negates things. But it causes interaction, and I'm not a huge fan that it's at 1. I get it, because they want to kind of push. They want to make things like, alright, the other thing that can really stop a High Priestess is Solemn Warning. It's the only card that can really stop her, unless you can somehow negate her effect to summon herself. Because if I have Spellbook of Wisdom in hand, you can't Bottomless her. You can't Torrential her. So it's gonna be kind of difficult to kill her, and now it's even harder to kill her because you have 1 less warning to run. I don't know. I think that's probably why they went with that decision, was to do things like that, Megalo, etc. You're going to see a huge rise in people using Bottomless Trap Hole, and even potentially using Black Horn of Heaven. Maybe. We might see a little bit of rise in that. It depends on, what decks are out. I definitely think we're going to see a lot more Bottomless, though. Semi-limited. Tsukiyomi. We're not using it. We're still not going to use it. It was amazing at its time, especially during Goat Control, but now it's just become one of those things where the it's a good card, it's a cool card. We're not going to use it. Unless some sort of archetype comes out that really uses it, and maybe spirit monsters become a thing. Maybe. I'm going to skip one and I'm going to go to Advanced Ritual Art. This is fascinating. Ritual monsters kind of don't get a lot of hype, and they don't get much. I guess Herald of Perfection players are happy? Maybe? I don't know. It's cool. I have nothing to say about it. It is a good card, though. I guess the one everyone's talking about is Thunder King Ryo going to 2. And I knew instantly why they did it. Sheen Smoke Signal is at 3. Spellbook of Secrets is at 3. Spellbook Magician of Prophecy is at 3. Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Bear is at 3. Tenki is at 3. Wind Up Factory is at 3. What is the one card that can stop all of those? Thunder King Ryo. And we main deck it, we side deck it, we will do anything to have it involved in a deck that we can possibly run in it, because it stops searching. It stops Dragoons, it stops Fire Fists, it stops tons and tons of cards. It slows them down, and they have to play. Well, here's the problem. When you're big, everybody's talking about things, in Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy, we're getting, Divine Judgment of the Spellbook. It'd be nice to not have to deal with a Thunder King on the board when I'm playing it. They're reducing cards to push future cards. They're pulling back now so they can, have other things take the spots later. I would not be surprised to see Thunder King Ryo end up limited within the next year. I wouldn't be surprised. This is kind of the thing they like doing. Unlimited. Spore. You're only going to use one anyway. Blackwing Kalute. Kalute's interesting. It's not what Blackwing players deserve. Blackwing players know what they want. And they want Black Whirlwind at 2 or 3. Why is Wind Up Factory at 3? And Black Whirlwind can't be at 2? They're not looking to give Blackwing players much ground on this. They're just kind of tossing them a bone, giving them Kalute. Okay. I guess we're going to have to keep waiting on that. Maybe someday they'll do something nice. Lightsworn Summoner, Lumina. Or Lumina Lightsworn Summoner. I don't know, I'm reading it backwards. So, Judgment of the Light, or whatever, the set that comes after Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy, that's when we're getting the Light Elemental Lord, assuming. And we're also getting tons of new Light cards, they said? Maybe? So that's named after Light. So, we're assuming we're gonna get some Light cards. And what better Light Summoner than Lumina? So, I mean, it's not that Lightsworns are bad, it's just, they're okay. Kind of sacky, but this does make it a little nastier. And obviously Sheen Smoke Signals at 3. So, I feel this list is very mild. March lists tend to be mild. They tend to not be favored by anti-meta players, or non-meta players, I should say. I know a lot of people are looking for, Undine to go to 1. That's never going to happen until next format. If it happens. I think the most damage they were ever going to do to Water would be maybe a Diva have gone to 2. They didn't even do that. Water's one of those decks that they're not interested in hitting it because it's not... It's what they want to sell right now. And it's a part of their target market. Fire Fist, Fire Kings, and soon the stuff that comes out in Lord of the Tachyon Galaxy. I think it's a very interesting list. To me, doesn't affect me all too much. I wasn't really playing I don't play wind-ups. I actually got rid of the deck a while ago because I don't like it. I think Sangan's interesting. I think Warning's kind of, I don't know. It hurts me a little bit because I do like Warning. I think it's a very cool card, but at the same time, it's not, nothing to cry over. Not an entirely exciting list, but looks to be a cool format. I look forward to being able to play spellbooks. I was kind of worried that they were going to hit Spellbook of Secrets to 2 or something. They've done it with Emergency Qual. They did it with Hieratic Seal of Convocation. Nothing to Spellbooks. I'm a little surprised. I'm pleased because I play it and I own it all, but at the same time, I know. I guess I was bracing for the worst from this list, and it came to be very, very mild. So, as always, like, comment, subscribe, check out this week's duel video, link in the description below, and comment down below with what you think they missed. I know there's a lot of things people wanted on this ban list. So, you know what? Talk about it. Comment down below, and what did you want to see on the ban list instead? Alright? Keep dueling, America.